Did I ever tell you what the definition of insanity is? Insanity is doing the exact same fucking thing over and over again, expecting shit to change.
Imagine a game so good it becomes its own worst enemy. A game so perfect it sets a standard so high that even its own creator can never quite reach it again. Welcome to Far Cry 3, the game that not only revolutionized its franchise, but also unknowingly doomed it to a cycle of repetition. Before this, Far Cry was a series searching for an identity. The first game had mutants, the second had malaria, but neither struck the right balance. Then came Far Cry 3, refining the best elements of its predecessors into an open world experience so immersive and so addicting that it still holds up over a decade later. Before Far Cry 3, most first-person shooters followed linear mission structures, guiding players down scripted paths with limited freedom. Even the open world shooters that did exist, like for example Far Cry 2, often felt restrictive due to clunky mechanics or punishing systems. Far Cry 3 changed everything by giving players unparalleled agency in how they approach combat, exploration, and survival. One of the game's biggest innovation was its adaptive combat system, where no single playstyle was favored. Unlike many shooters that force players into either action-packed gunfights or stealth missions, Far Cry 3 lets you seamlessly switch between strategies on the fly. You could plan out your attacks, using a camera to mark enemies, silenced weapons for quiet takedowns, and distractions tool like crocs to lure guard into traps. Or, on the other hand, if you preferred chaos, you could charge into a base, guns blazing, throw grenades, and mow down enemies with an LMG. The game's interactivity made the world itself a weapon, setting fields on fire, releasing caged animals, or using explosive barrels turned every encounter into a sandbox of destruction. No two encounters played out the same way though. The AI reacted dynamically, reinforcements arrived based on your actions, and wildlife could randomly intervene, creating unpredictable battles. This layer of flexibility became a template for countless future open-world shooters, from Far Cry's own sequels to Ubisoft's Ghost Recon and Assassin's Creed franchise. The Rook Islands weren't just a pretty backdrop too, they were a living, breathing playground. Unlike other open-world games that felt empty between missions, Far Cry 3 ensured there was always something exciting to do. From hunting and crafting, like animals weren't just background elements, they were key to progression. Hunting sharks, bears, or tigers wasn't just for fun, it was necessary to craft better gear, adding a layer of survival mechanics. There were also dynamic events, whether it was a random patrol attacking a friendly village, an enemy jeep chasing you down, or a tiger mauling an unsuspecting soldier. Far Cry 3 made sure the world felt alive and unpredictable. There's also vehicles. The game introduced an impressive range of vehicles, from boats, jet skis, ATVs, and even hang gliders, that weren't just for travel but also for chaotic combat encounters. Nothing felt better than jumping off a cliff, Assassin's Creed style, gliding silently over an enemy outpost and parachuting in to take them down. Perhaps the most influential addition to gaming was the outpost liberation system. Enemy camps dotted the map, and players were given total freedom in how to clear them. Each outpost was its own puzzle, with multiple entry points, enemy types, and environmental hazards. You could use distractions, sabotage alarms, and even let loose wild animals to cause havoc, which I did a lot, I love that. Once liberated, outposts became safe zones, reducing enemy presence and giving you fast travel options, rewarding players for engaging with the world. This mechanic became a core feature in Far Cry sequels, Assassin's Creed, Horizon Zero Dawn, and yeah, even Metal Gear Solid 5. Far Cry wasn't just about shooting, it was about giving players the tools to create their own unique moments. Whether it was setting fire to a field and watching enemies panic, sniping from a distance without ever being seen, or going full action hero with a flamethrower, the game made sure every player's experience felt personal. This wasn't just revolutionary gameplay, it was a revolution in player freedom, a template that countless games have tried and often failed to recapture. One of the Far Cry's biggest strengths was how good it felt to play. Oh, let me tell you something, I replayed it for this and it was so good. The game didn't just introduce revolutionary systems, it refined every aspect of a first-person gameplay to be fluid, immersive, and endlessly engaging. From movement to combat, stealth to exploration, every mechanic was designed to empower the player while keeping the experience challenging and unpredictable. Most shooters of the time struggled to balance action with stealth, often punishing players for trying to stay hidden. Far Cry 3 not only made stealth a viable option, it made it feel incredible. Enemy tagging system, instead of relying on a cluttered minimap, the game let you scout enemy locations with the camera, marking them for easy tracking. This system became a staple in Ubisoft games and beyond. We have takedown chains. The ability to string together multiple melee takedown made stealth feel fast, smooth, and cinematic, letting you go from one enemy to the next without breaking pace. It was godlike. Enemies reacted to noise too, making suppressors and silent weapon invaluable. You could sneak through tall grass, hide in shadows, or use distractions to manipulate patrols. Even if the enemies spotted you, they called for reinforcement, but only if the alarms were still active. Taking out these alarms added a layer of pre-planning and strategy. The best part? Stealth wasn't forced on the player, it was simply another tool in your arsenal, and it felt just as fun as going in guns blazing. And trust me, I played it stealthily and I played it with a sniper, and it felt so satisfying to do that. Many shooters struggled to make gunplay feel right, either making weapons feel too weak or too overpowered. Far Cry 3 nailed the balance, making every encounter feel weighty, responsive, and unpredictable. Weapon had real punch, every shot felt satisfying. Pistols packed a punch, sniper rifles had realistic bullet drop, and shotguns were devastating up close. I never used them, I just used sniper. I went sniper elite, bro. Enemy AI was smart but reactive. Enemies weren't just bullet sponges, they would take cover, flank you, or even retreat if they felt overwhelmed. Some would throw grenades to flush you out, while others would rush you in close quarters, and I hate those who rush, bro. I hate them so much. Dynamic cover system too. The game allowed for fluid movement, letting players slide into cover, peek around corners, and use the environment for protection. Grenades set enemies flying. Fire spread realistically. I hate fire, bro. I hate playing with that. Across field, and even vehicles could explode spectacularly if shot in the right spot. The chaos of combat meant that no two fights played out the same. One moment you're picking off enemies from a distance, the next you're dodging a wild animal that just entered the battlefield. A big problem with many open world games is that they give players a massive map, but no real incentive to explore it. Far Cry 3 solved this issue by making exploration a core part of progression. We have hidden caves and relics. The world was filled with secrets, abandoned ruins, sunken ships, and ancient artifacts that rewarded players with the lore and loot. We have, of course, the famous climbing radio towers. Unlike modern Ubisoft games where climbing towers feel repetitive, Far Cry 3's towers were platforming puzzles, requiring precise jumps and strategic movements. Unlocking them revealed new areas of the map, rewarding players for their curiosity. And I can say this because yeah, it was puzzling sometimes to climb the tower, and I like. We have wildlife integration. The jungle wasn't just a backdrop, it was alive. Swimming could lead to a shark attack or a crocodile attack. A casual hike could turn into a tiger chase, and a Komodo dragon might ambush you when you least expect it. And I can tell because Komodo dragon, and I have it like underlined and bolded in the script, they ruined so many of me sniping from afar because you cannot see them. You just boom, and the grass hide them so well. They were annoying. The organic, emergent gameplay made every trip through the island a potential adventure or disaster. Most open world games treat vehicles as a simple way to get from point A to point B. Far Cry 3 made sure every ride was an adventure in itself. ATVs and jeeps, perfect speeding through the jungle, but hit a rock too hard and you might go flying. Jet skis and boats. Water travel wasn't just a gimmick though, it was a fast and effective way to navigate while avoiding enemy patrols, and I like this because in Far Cry 1 this was like the main transport method, and it was enjoyable too in this game. Hang gliders, one of the most unique additions, allowing players to soar over the jungle and plan their attacks from the air. And I can tell you this because with this I tried to play like Batman. I would hang glide into an outpost like so fast, detach and just go gun blazing, and I liked it. Cinematic vehicle combat, enemies chase you, ramming your vehicle or shooting at your tires, leading to chaotic high-speed shootouts. And I died so many times with this because the enemy was so aggressive for no reason. I was just passing by, dude. Every vehicle felt dangerous, unpredictable and exhilarating, adding to the feeling that the island was out to get you. Many modern open world games shower players with XP and upgrades, making progression feel meaningless. Far Cry 3 made sure that every skill point and gear upgrade felt like a hard-earned reward. The XP system, the player leveled up by completing missions, take down enemies and exploring the world. Skills that changed the gameplay. Instead of just stats boosts, skills gave you new abilities like knife throw takedowns, faster reloads, or the ability to sprint while crouching, and I unlocked this the first thing ever. Crafting also matters. Instead of looting pre-made gear, player had to hunt animals to craft better equipment, forcing them to interact with the island's ecosystem. And with this I kinda have an issue, because when I played it, the first thing that when I had the gun, I literally like before even meeting Citra, I already unlocked everything. I unlocked like more health, more syringe med packs, I unlocked all the slots of my weapon. So this kinda like, I like the freedom, but like it made me feel like overpowered from the beginning. Everything about the progression system felt like it belonged in the world, rather than being an artificial game mechanic. At its core, Far Cry 3 wasn't just about shooting enemies or completing missions, it was about giving players the tools to create their own stories. The game's mechanics were designed to be smooth, responsive and experimental, encouraging players to try new things, take risks, and embrace the unexpected. Whether you were sneaking into an outpost undetected, blowing up a convoy with C4, or simply surviving a jungle full of hostile wildlife, Far Cry 3 made sure that every moment was a thrilling, unpredictable adventure. It wasn't just satisfying gameplay, it was a masterclass in open world design. One of Far Cry's greatest achievements was how it transformed a stunning tropical paradise into a living nightmare. The Rook Islands weren't just a backdrop, they were a character on their own right, setting the tone for both freedom and fear. The lush jungles, crystal clear waters, and they still hold up to this day, the water system, amazing, and picturesque beaches contrasted violently with the brutality of the world within them, making one of the most immersive and haunting open world setting ever created. Unlike many open world games where the setting feels static, Far Cry 3 made sure the Rook Islands always felt alive, unpredictable and hostile. From dense jungles that swallows you whole, the thick vegetation wasn't just for show. It provided cover for stealth, but also hid dangers. Whether it was a pirate patrol, a lurking tiger, or an ambush just waiting to happen, every trek through the jungle felt tense and uncertain, reinforcing the idea that the island itself was as much as an enemy as Vaas and his men. There's also stunning beaches that mask horror, while sand beaches and gorgeous ocean view made the island look like a vacation spot. Yeah, until you stumble upon wrecked boats, abandoned huts, and bodies strung up as warnings. When I first witnessed that, I was like, what the fuck is going on? Like, what happened? And you know what's more amazing? Like when you find like a hut and like the body hanging, before you enter, you can see like a couple of enemies, like 3 or 2, just hanging around. You can kill them. This game is so good, bro. It's so good. The contrast between beauty and violence was jarring, making every safe-looking area feel deceptive. There's also cave systems and ancient ruins. The island wasn't just about the surface. Exploring dark caves, forgotten ruins, and underground passageways added layers to the island's history, making it feel more ancient, mysterious, and cursed. From the highest cliffs to the deepest ocean floors, Far Cry 3 made sure that every inch of the world felt handcrafted and full of secrets waiting to be uncovered. The game's dynamic lighting and weather effect didn't just enhance the visual, they affected the tone and tension of the game. Like from golden sunset that felt peaceful yet isolated, the island's beauty was undeniable, with breathtaking sunrises and sunsets painting the world in warm colors. But instead of feeling comforting, these moments often felt lonely and eerie, as if the world was mocking you with its beauty while you struggle to survive. There's also the thing that I like, thunderstorms that felt like nature was against you. When this first happened, I was at awe. The game's storms were more than just visual effects. They transformed the way the island felt. Rain would pound the ground, wind would howl through the trees, and lightning would flash across the sky, making the jungle feel even more ominous. And you know what's funny? When I write howl, all I can like next to it, I write like Geralt in the Witcher Wild Hunt 3. He's saying, "Oh, the wind is howling." I still remember to this day. The ever-present darkness of night. When night fell, the island became a completely different beast. Shadows stretched endlessly, visibility dropped, and the sound of the jungle, animals growling, insects chirping, distant campfire, made exploration genuinely nerve-wracking. And I have to give credit where credit is due. The Far Cry franchise, when it comes to night setting, they do it like such an incredible job with it. Like I still remember Far Cry Primal, which you have like enemies become more aggressive, everything, and even Far Cry 4. The world wasn't just pretty, it was oppressive, unpredictable, and deeply immersive, making survival feel even more intense. Most open world games treat wildlife as a simple background detail. Far Cry 3 made animals an integral part of the gameplay, often being just as deadly as the human enemies you faced. You got tigers, leopard, and Komodo dragons that stalked you. You could be silently clearing an empty camp when suddenly a tiger lunges at you, completely changing the situation. Predators roamed freely, attacking both you and your enemies, creating moments of chaos that felt entirely unscripted. Even the more harmless animals weren't always friendly. If you started a buffalo or got too close to a wild boar, they wouldn't hesitate to charge, knocking you off your feet and sometimes even killing you outright. Ecosystem that made the world feel real. Animals haunted each other, interacted naturally with the environment, and could be used to your advantage. Luring a tiger into an enemy outpost was often just as effective as attacking it itself. The wildlife wasn't just a decoration, it was a fundamental part of the experience, reinforcing the idea that everything on this island was trying to kill you. Scattered across the island were enemy outposts, makeshift camps, and villages caught in the crossfire, adding depth to the world's conflict. We have pirate outposts that felt oppressive. Every enemy base was a fortified nightmare, filled with armed guard, watchtowers, and sometimes even caged animals. Taking them down wasn't just a mission, it was a battle for territory, slowly reclaiming the island from Vaas's control. We have also abandoned villages that told silent stories. Some areas weren't filled with enemies but with the remains of people who had fled or been slaughtered. Burned down homes, overgrown fields, and scattered belongings told stories of a paradise that had been shattered. NPCs also reacted to the chaos. The few surviving civilians felt like real people, running in fear when violence broke out, and offering side quests that added layers to the world's lore. The island's struggle felt real and personal rather than just a background conflict. Even the smallest locations felt thoroughly designed, making the Rook Island one of the most immersive and believable open world setting in gaming history. Few games create a setting as visually stunning, mechanically engaging, and thematically rich as Far Cry 3. It's a world that rewards exploration but punishes carelessness. It's a paradise that seduces you with its beauty, then traps you in its violence. It's a setting where every step feels meaningful, every discovery feels earned, and every danger feels real. Even years after its release, the Rook Islands remain one of the most immersive and haunting environments ever created in the gaming history. A true statement to how Far Cry 3 turned a dream vacation into an unforgettable nightmare.
That is crazy.
Now let's talk about my boy, bro. Let's talk about him. When people think of Far Cry 3, one name always comes to mind first: Vaas Montenegro. In an era where video game villains were often one-dimensional, predictable, or forgettable, Vaas broke the mold, becoming one of the most terrifying, charismatic, and legendary antagonists in gaming history. He wasn't just a bad guy, he was an experience, a presence that dominated the game, overshadowing even the protagonist. Vaas redefined what it meant to be a video game villain, setting a new standard for antagonist design that many games have tried and failed to replicate ever since. Vaas was charismatic, unhinged, and completely unpredictable. Most villains follow a formula. They're either power-hungry dictators, emotionless killing machines, or tragic figures with a grudge. Vaas, he was something else entirely. His unpredictability kept us on edge. One moment he's laughing in your face, cracking jokes like he's your best friend. The next, he's pointing a gun at your head, deciding whether or not to pull the trigger. You never knew what he was going to do next, making every encounter with him genuinely nerve-wracking. He was a presence that demanded attention. Every scene with Vaas was electrifying. He wasn't just reading lines, he was performing. His movements, his voice, his wild, intense eyes, everything about him made you feel like you were trapped in a room with a madman who could snap at any minute. He's a master of psychological terror. Vaas didn't just hurt Jason Brody physically, he broke him mentally. His speeches, his mind games, his sheer ability to make Jason feel powerless turned every encounter into a mental battlefield. From the moment he appeared on screen, Vaas wasn't just a villain, he was a force of nature. Did I ever tell you the definition of insanity? This line cemented Vaas in gaming history. His chilling monologue, where he explains how insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results, wasn't just a moment of character depth, it was a meta commentary on the player's action in the game itself. And you know what's crazy? This phrase is literally what Ubisoft was doing after Far Cry 3, doing the same thing over and over and over and expecting different results. They predicted their downfall with this line. And the way he delivered it, with a mixture of amusement, rage, and pure madness, made it unforgettable. It wasn't just a dialogue, it was a performance that felt so real, so disturbingly human that it became one of the gaming's most quoted lines. Even if you've never played Far Cry 3, you know that speech. That's how iconic it is. And a big reason why Vaas became so legendary is Michael Mando's unforgettable performance. It was more than just voice acting, bro. Mando didn't just voice Vaas, he became Vaas. His facial expressions, body language, and raw intensity made the character feel alive. A character created from improvisation. Vaas wasn't originally in the game. The developers created him specifically after seeing Mando's performance, proving just how much he owned the role. Even outside of Far Cry 3, Mando has continued to be associated with Vaas, whether it's a fan requests, interviews, or even hints at Vaas returning. His performance left an impact that never faded. Vaas wasn't just a character written to be great, he was brought to life by one of the best performances in gaming history. The biggest proof of Vaas's impact, he wasn't even the game's final boss. Vaas's presence was so overwhelming that when he was gone, the rest of the game felt like something was missing. Hoyt, the real, quote-unquote main villain, never came close to being as compelling, which left many players me too, wishing Vaas had been the true final boss. Even in marketing, Vaas was front and center. Ubisoft knew he was the real standing point of the game. Even though he wasn't in the game as much as people remember, his influence was so strong that he felt like he was always there. Vaas changed how we see and expect villains in video game. Before him, most game antagonists were larger than life warlord, emotionalist killers, or cartoonishly evil mastermind, but Vaas, he felt human. Dangerous, yes, but also deeply flawed, erratic and broken. It wasn't about conquering the world or some grand master plan. He was chaos in its purest form. His insanity wasn't just an act, it was something you could feel in every interaction with him. After Far Cry 3, so many games tried to replicate the Vaas formula with charismatic, unpredictable villains, but none of them ever truly reached his level. Even over a decade later, Vaas remains one of the most iconic villains in gaming history. His speeches are still quoted, his performance is still praised, his influence is still felt in every attempt to create a crazy quote-unquote villain in games. Few villains have ever left such an impact, and even fewer have been able to completely steal the spotlight from the main character. Vaas wasn't just another video game antagonist, he was a moment in gaming history. Now, let's talk about the protagonist. When Far Cry 3 begins, Jason Brody is just another rich kid on vacation, young, carefree, and completely out of his element. But by the time the credits roll, he's become something far darker, a hardened survival, a ruthless warrior, and maybe even a monster. Jason's transformation is one of the most compelling character arcs in the series, taking him from an ordinary tourist to a cold-blooded killer, all while forcing players to question whether they're the hero or just another villain. At the start of the game, Jason is as far from a hero as possible. He's spoiled and carefree. Jason and his friends are the definition of privileged, reckless young adults. They party, drink, and skydive into unknown territory without a single thought. When his vacation runs into a nightmare, Jason is scared, weak, and utterly helpless. He doesn't know how to fight, he doesn't know how to survive, he's just a rich kid caught in the wrong place at the wrong time. But by watching his brother die in front of him, being hunted by pirates, and realizing no one is coming to save him, this is the moment that shatters his reality. Jason starts as someone who shouldn't survive this world, but as the island breaks him down, he rebuilds himself into something else entirely. Jason's transformation isn't instant, it's gradual, brutal, and disturbingly natural. Killing for the first time, when Jason makes his first kill, it's messy, desperate, and terrifying. But the scariest part? It gets easier. As he learns to fight, hunt, and kill, Jason starts to embrace the island's brutal way of life. He doesn't just survive, he begins to thrive. What starts as a self-defense turns into something more. Jason stops hesitating, stops questioning. He becomes a hunter, a warrior, and eventually something terrifying. His arc is more than just a typical zero-to-hero story. It's about how violence changes people. It had to be this way. He had to fight for his own. Jason's transformation isn't just physical, it's also mental. At first, Jason kills because he has to, but soon it's clear he enjoys this. The thrill, the control, the rush of victory, it starts to consume him. The more he embraces his new reality, the less he cares about who he used to be. His old friends, they don't understand him anymore. His past life, it feels like a distant dream. And Citra, the Rakyat's mysterious leader, sees Jason as a chosen warrior. She feeds his ego, fuels his hunger for power, and pushes him further down the path of bloodshed. Jason doesn't just change, he loses himself. By the time the game reaches its climax, Jason is no longer the same person who fell onto this island, but the real question is, has he become a hero or just another monster? The game gives players a decision. Either reject the island, leave with your friends and try to reclaim your old life, or fully embrace the warrior within, kill your friends and become the island's new ruler. A reflection of players' journey. Throughout the game, Players enjoy the chaos, the guns, the action, the thrill of hunting, but when the game asks you to choose Jason's fate, it forces you to question whether you were truly the hero all along. Regardless of your choice, Jason's arc is a cautionary tale about how easy it is to lose yourself to violence. Far Cry 3 wasn't just another open world shooter, it was a turning point, a game so perfectly crafted, so revolutionary, and so impactful that it didn't just redefine its own series, it redefined an entire genre. But the cruel irony, its success became its own curse. Ubisoft didn't just make a great game, they accidentally trapped themselves in its shadows. And you know what? Vaas's ironic definition of insanity, and I said it before, speech ironically describes Ubisoft's approach to the series. They keep making bigger maps, but they don't feel better. They keep adding new villains, but none as impactful as Vaas. They keep expanding the gameplay, but it never feels revolutionary again. And they do that in all their franchises. The magic of Far Cry 3 was that it took risks, but after its success, Ubisoft stopped innovating. They just refined, repeated, doing the same thing over and over and over. And while each sequel had its moments, none of them shocked the world the way Far Cry 3 did.